Between June 21st and June 28, 2026, a heat wave swept across Europe and broke all-time temperature records in 13 countries. France recorded its hottest day since measurements began in 1947. Germany broke its national record on 3 consecutive days. The Czech Republic, Poland, Denmark, and the Netherlands all set new all-time highs within the same week. In France, Belgium, and the Netherlands alone, more than 3,700 people died from heat-related causes. A preliminary academic estimate published on Zenodo placed the continent-wide toll near 20,000 deaths in 7 days, though that figure has not been peer-reviewed and should be treated with caution. By multiple measures, it was the most severe heat wave ever recorded in Europe. The cause was a weather pattern called an omega block. It takes its name from the shape it creates on weather maps, a large ridge of high pressure sitting between 2 troughs of low pressure, forming something close to the Greek letter omega. When this pattern locks into place, the high-pressure dome traps hot air over a region for days or even weeks. It shuts down cloud formation, blocks cooler air from the north, and prevents temperatures from dropping overnight. Heat builds day after day with no break. In June 2026, an omega block pulled hot Saharan air northward into Western and Central Europe around June 17 and held it there for more than 10 days. This was not the first heat wave of 2026. From May 24 to May 30, a heat dome had already pushed temperatures 10 to 15 degrees Celsius above normal across Western Europe. The United Kingdom recorded 35.1 degrees at Kew Gardens in London on May 26, the hottest spring day in Great Britain's history. Temperatures on the London Underground reached 34.3 degrees. Portugal hit 40.3 degrees at Moura on May 27, a national record for May. Ireland reached 30.6 degrees at Shannon Airport, a reading 5 standard deviations above the May average, according to Met Iran. Spain's Carlos III Health Institute recorded 101 heat-related deaths in May, the highest May toll since heat surveillance began in 2015. 11 people drowned in the United Kingdom during that heat, and 7 heat-related deaths were reported in France. Climate scientists noted that the 2026 onset closely mirrored the timing of the 2025 European heatwaves, which had begun just 6 days later the previous year. Conditions eased briefly after the May wave broke. Then, around June 17, the omega block settled over Western Europe. Temperatures started climbing again, and this time went far beyond what May had produced. Spain was hit first. On June 22, Andújar in the province of Jaén recorded 45.1 degrees Celsius, 113.2 Fahrenheit, the first 45-degree reading of 2026. June the 22nd and 23rd became the 2 hottest June days in mainland Spain since at least 1950. The National Meteorological Agency, EMET, officially declared the country's first heat wave of 2026 beginning June 21. By the end of June, Spain's Carlos III Institute had linked more than 1,028 excess deaths to the heat, with 212 of those occurring in just the first 4 days. 2026 was tracking as the deadliest heat year in Spain's modern monitoring history. France recorded its hottest day since national measurements began in 1947. On June 23, the southwestern town of Pissos reached 44.3 degrees Celsius, 111.7 Fahrenheit, confirmed by Meteo France. Paris hit a June record of 40.9 degrees the following day. The revised death toll for June 22 to 28 reached 2,025 excess deaths, representing a 30% jump in overall mortality and a 62% spike in the Paris region. Most of the dead were over 65. At least 55 people drowned across France as they sought relief in rivers, lakes, and unsupervised water, with 40 of those deaths reported by June 23 alone. Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu said most of the drowning victims were young people. As the omega block drifted eastward, the records moved with it. Germany broke its all-time national temperature record on 3 straight days. June 26 brought 41.3 degrees at Saarbrücken. June 27 brought 41.5 at Druitz. June 28 brought 41.7 degrees Celsius, 107.1 Fahrenheit, at Kostrzyn near the Polish border, the highest temperature ever recorded in Germany. Deutsche Bahn, the national rail operator, urged passengers to cancel or postpone all non-essential travel between June the 25th and 30th. It waived cancellation fees and warned of extreme thermal stress on signals, tracks, and overhead power lines. The Czech Republic recorded 41.9 degrees at Doksany on June 28, an all-time national record confirmed by the Czech Hydrometeorological Institute. The previous record, 40.4 degrees, had stood since 2012. 9 of the 10 highest temperatures ever measured in the Czech Republic were recorded that same weekend. Poland set a new national record of 40.5 degrees at Słubice, replacing a record that had stood for more than a century. Denmark reached 37.0 degrees at Odum, its hottest day on record. Hungary hit 40.7 degrees at Budakölas. The United Kingdom recorded 37.3 degrees at Santun-Downham in Suffolk. Italy reached 40.1 degrees in Bologna on June 29, and authorities placed 22 cities under the highest heat alert, from Bolzano in the north to Palermo in Sicily. At least 5 people died from the heat in Italy, including 2 farm workers and a homeless man. The Netherlands issued its first-ever code red warning for heat on June 26, a level that had never been used for temperature in the country's history. El recorded 39.4 degrees. Road surface temperatures exceeded 50 degrees Celsius in southern parts of the country. More than 3,800 motorists called for roadside assistance as vehicles broke down in the heat. The death toll continued to rise across borders. Belgium recorded 1,747 excess deaths between June 18 and July 1, according to the Government Health Institute Scienceano. Those are the highest heatwave mortality figures since records began in 2000. Deaths ran 39% above normal. In residential care homes alone, 498 more people died than usual. The worst single day was June 27, when 641 people died, more than double the usual count. The Netherlands reported roughly 480 excess deaths, mainly among people over 80. Combined, France, Belgium, and the Netherlands recorded 3,700 excess deaths during the heat wave. Those numbers are preliminary and expected to rise. The heat also broke infrastructure. In France, a damaged transformer left 68,000 households without power in the Finistère department. A separate outage hit 36,000 households in northern and central France. At peak, up to 106,000 power network clients lost electricity across the country. Rail services were disrupted across France as tracks expanded under thermal stress and overhead lines failed. EDF, the national electricity provider, reduced nuclear power output because river water used for cooling had grown too warm, though it still met demand. In Italy, heavy air conditioning use caused a blackout that shut down the Uffizi Gallery in Florence. The World Weather Attribution Group, which uses peer-reviewed methodology for rapid climate assessments, published its analysis within days. It found the June 2026 event to be the most severe heat wave ever recorded over the region it analyzed. A comparable heat wave in June 1976, when some of Europe's previous records were set, would have been virtually impossible. The 2026 event was roughly 3.5 degrees Celsius hotter during the day than it would have been in 1976, and about 2.0 degrees hotter than in 2003. Overnight temperatures of this kind are now more than 100 times more likely than they were in 2003. The group concluded that the heat wave was driven by rare meteorological conditions, whose intensity has been substantially amplified by human-caused climate change. Copernicus, the European Union's climate monitoring service, confirmed June 2026 as the hottest June on record for Western Europe and the second warmest globally. Global sea surface temperatures in June reached 20.98 degrees Celsius, higher than 2023 and 2024. A marine heat wave was ongoing across the Mediterranean. In the Western Basin, sea surface temperature anomalies reached up to 6 degrees above normal, with the largest spikes recorded in the Gulf of Lion off southern France and in the Ligurian and Tyrrhenian seas along western Italy. Governments responded with emergency measures. Paris banned public alcohol consumption over the peak weekend and postponed the Pride March. The Eiffel Tower and the Louvre closed early. The Netherlands shut schools across multiple regions. Italy placed 22 cities under its highest health alert. In France, Prime Minister Lecornu chaired a crisis meeting and kept the National Health Emergency Plan, known as ORSEN, at its highest level, citing a possible recurrence of a heat wave episode. The heat wave also became a political crisis in France. The Green Party brought a no-confidence motion against Lecornu's government on July 1, accusing it of failing to protect citizens. Lecornu challenged a death toll of 10,000 floated by some Green members of Parliament, calling the figure scandalous and undignified. Government spokesperson Maud Breton dismissed the motion as a political maneuver, saying, "There is a government managing the crisis and there are political forces fueling the crisis by introducing the motion." Lecornu survived the vote on July 7. The agricultural damage was severe. Champagne producers expect the earliest harvest in recorded history, with picking likely around August 15, roughly a month earlier than was typical a few decades ago. Yields are expected to be about 10% smaller than last year. In Bordeaux and Burgundy, producers warned the decline would be significant, but said it was too early for precise figures. Excessive sun exposure risks shriveling grapes on the vine before they can be picked. In Roussillon, some producers raised the possibility of grape picking starting as early as July. Across the EU, maize, potatoes, and field vegetables were the hardest hit crops, and grain and vegetable prices were pushed higher. What the heat wave left behind was fuel. Weeks of extreme heat dried out vegetation across southern Europe. Overnight temperatures stayed so high that soil and plants never recovered moisture between days. By late June, official assessments described much of the region as tinder dry. On June 2, a full month before fire season escalated, the EU had prepositioned its largest ever wildfire response, 777 firefighters from 14 countries, 22 aircraft, and 5 helicopters, across 6 countries. Hadja Labib, the EU Commissioner for Preparedness and Crisis Management, said at the time, "When fires threaten communities, Europe responds as one." Within weeks, that force was fully activated as wildfires broke out across Portugal, Spain, France, and Greece. As of July 9, temperatures across southern Europe are forecast to approach 40 degrees Celsius again in the coming days. France has kept its health emergency plan at the highest level. The Omega block has weakened, but forecasters have not ruled out a return. The fire season is accelerating. Thousands are dead. Records that stood for decades were broken in a single week, and in some cases broken again the very next day. And summer is not over. Subscribe to stay updated for the latest disaster reports.